Hey listeners, thank you so much for listening to HRN. We want to make your experience as a listener even better, and to help us do that, we'd love your input on our audience survey. It'll only take a few minutes, and by completing it, you can enter to win a $250 gift card from Goldbelly. Visit heritageradionetwork.org/survey to take the survey and to help us keep growing and improving. That's heritageradionetwork.org/survey. Thanks for your support.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. We've been making cheese in Wisconsin since before we were even a state, which may be one reason why we win so many awards for it. It's what happens when a whole state dreams in cheese. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Well, hello. Welcome to All in the Industry on Heritage Radio Network. I'm your host and producer, Sherry Bayer, and this is our 400th episode of this series, which is dedicated to behind-the-scenes talent in the hospitality industry. And yes, you heard me right, 400. Happy milestone to us. Thank you, our loyal listeners, for supporting our show all of these years, and to all of our guests for joining us, as without all of you, there would be no All in the Industry. I love our industry and covering it on my show. It's hard to believe that I started this podcast in 2014, and it's been 11 years. It has been such an honor to speak with so many leaders in our industry who I highly respect and share their stories, including Danny Meyer, Alain Ducasse, Massimo Bottura, Ruth Reichel, Florence Fabricant, Gail Simmons, Carla Hall, Tom Colicchio, Dale DeGroff, Jimmy Huey, J.J. Johnson, Virgilio Martinez, Rodolfo Guzman, Rasmus Monk, Gianno Pandolfi, Melissa Clark, Hunter Lewis, Thomas Keller, Drew Nieporent, John George and Danielle, who don't even need last names, and of course the late and great Gail Green, as well as Jamal James Kent. What a true honor. And also all of the culinary and hospitality events and festivals and awards and conferences around the world that I've had the opportunity to cover and be a part of with my on the road shows. I'm truly grateful. And 400 shows means 400 PR tips and 400 solo dining experiences, and many industry news discussions and speed rounds. Hard to believe, as I said. So thank you, as always, for being part of All in the Industry. It truly means so much to me. Here's to 400. And now on our show today, I have an acclaimed chef and restaurateur who recently opened his first restaurant in New York City. And I sat down with him on location at his new spot this summer, and I will introduce him fully in a moment. But first, as I do on every show, I will start out with my PR tip, and then I will have my interview with a speed round, and I have some industry news this week, and I will then close out with my solo dining experience. As the founder of Bayer Public Relations, I'm going to tip the show off with my PR tip of the week. So today's tip is to stay the path. Yes, let's focus on what we want to achieve and our long-term goals, both in work and personally, and try not to stray the course. Let's keep moving forward, breaking things down into smaller or more manageable steps and celebrating progress along the way. Now, sometimes results aren't immediate, but if we trust in the process and embrace the challenges and don't give up, we will see results. So let's remember to keep our eye on the ball and going forward, as with consistency and persistence, we can achieve anything. That's my tip today. Okay, so I'm so excited to share this interview with you as my 400th episode. My guest is award-winning chef and restaurateur Michael Mina, who is the founder and executive chairman of Mina Group, a collection of over 30 chef-driven concepts, including Pabu, Sorrel, Mina's Fish House, the Bungalow Kitchen by Michael Mina, and Bourbon Steak across the Bay Area, Los Angeles, New York, Hawaii, and beyond. Born in Cairo, Egypt, and raised in Ellensburg, Washington, Michael began his Epicurean journey at the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, and gained hands-on experience working in Chef Charlie Palmer's kitchen at the upscale Aureole in New York City. Now Michael has returned to where his career started, with the opening of Bourbon Steak, New York, his first New York City restaurant located inside the newly renovated JW Marriott Essex House, New York, on Central Park South. Michael has been honored with numerous accolades over the years, including a Michelin star at Michael Mina, James Beard Foundation's Who's Who of Food and Beverage inductee, Bon Appetit's Chef of the Year, and most recently named one of the 50 most powerful people in American fine dining by Robb Report. Michael and his collection of restaurants have been featured across national media outlets from Food and Wine to Food Network and Today. And he's cooked for 3 U.S. presidents, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. I was honored to sit down with Michael at his beautiful new restaurant, Bourbon Steak, New York, to talk about his impressive career and restaurants and why he decided now to open in New York City. And that is what is coming up. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Chef Michael Mina. Enjoy. Well, hello. Welcome to All in the Industry. I'm your host and producer, Sherry Bayer, and I am here at Bourbon Steak in New York City on Central Park South, about to sit down with Michael Mina, the chef and owner of this beautiful restaurant, who just opened for the first time in New York City, and we're going to hear all about it. So stay tuned. Hello, Michael Mina.
Hi, Sherry.
So we can just jump right into it.
Okay, let's do it.
It's so nice to be here with you today at Bourbon Steak in Manhattan.
Yes.
And this is, as I just mentioned to you, I would say now it's my table.
That's it. You picked the best one, so you did good.
Well, your team, I think, picked the best one. But as I look around this dining room, I don't think there's really a bad seat in the house.
There really isn't. We're really blessed.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And I live not that far away. I walked here. I'm on the other side of Columbus Circle.
Wonderful.
So you're in my neighborhood. I'm your neighbor. And I'm so excited for you to be here in New York. And before we get more into this restaurant and your decision to open here now, let's go back. I always like to start with my guests and find out more about their background. So you want to take us back a little bit?
Sure. So, as a child, I fell in love with cooking. Similar to a lot of chefs, started out as a dishwashing job in a restaurant, and when I was 13, and immediately was enamored by the cooking part of it, and would just sit and obsess with the guy the chef who ran the little. It was just a little cafe, and so started cooking when I was 15, and as soon as I started cooking, I knew that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And this is back in early 80s, maybe 84. And it wasn't, there wasn't Food Network in the town I grew up in. And I grew up in a very small town. And so I had to convince my parents that I wanted to go to culinary school. And after a year of fighting, we agreed that I would go to the Culinary Institute of America here upstate in New York. And so got to, through the first year of school, and then in the Culinary Institute, you do this great externship in the middle. And on my externship, I met a chef named George Marone and a chef named Jerry Hayden, who had both worked for Charlie Palmer out here in New York. And Jerry Hayden was coming back to open the new Aureole. So my second year of culinary school, I was really blessed to get to come down to the city every weekend and work and, you know, stage every single weekend at Oreo when it opened. And that was really the eye-opening experience for me, to just be in awe of not just the restaurant was amazing, but just New York. I mean, it's the Mecca, you know.
Yeah.
And so then I got to work in New York after I graduated.
And what year is this?
I graduated in 89.
Okay.
And made some friends. One of my dear friends was going to open Tribeca Grill. And so I got to be part of that opening team.
With Drew.
Yeah, with Drew.
Yeah.
And still got to, you know, go around the city and stage at other restaurants and everything else. And then I got an opportunity to open a restaurant in San Francisco called Aqua. And that was in 91. We opened in October of 91. And that was, you know, that was where I launched my career. And that restaurant quickly became, you know, we really took the approach of a lot of what I learned in New York, you know, like, you know, really just that level of food and that level of service, that level of innovation. And it was a fish restaurant, hence the name Aqua. But it was in California, so it was a little bit, you know, more relaxed time. It you know, became one of only 3 4-star restaurants in the city within 3 years. But it was large. It was much bigger than the other ones and had great energy, a buzzing bar. It was loud. It's kind of like the way restaurants are nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's, you know, that was kind of what drove me. And always, you know, I've opened, you know, I have 32 restaurants now, and always wanted to open in New York, but there were 2 real key components to that. Number one, my wife is from Long Island, from Bethpage. She's Italian, Puerto Rican. And she, you know, when we had children, she said, "You're not opening in New York until the children are out of school."
Oh, okay.
I know what's going to happen. You're going to want to be there all the time because it's so competitive. And so I stayed true to that promise. And number 2, it just really had to be the right fit. And so, you know, I probably passed on 40 projects here in New York to get to this point.
I had asked my guest on episode 390, I had on Christina Gridovich. She's now the head of partnerships at Mark Laurie's Wonder, and she's formerly the publisher at Food and Wine, longtime publisher. Yeah. And so I asked her to ask you a question. She did mention she believes she met you way long ago at an event you did at your restaurant in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but you just kind of answered her question, because her question was, we were just in Aspen for the Food and Wine Classic, and she did this amazing panel with the Amex Trade Program, and the topic was growing your brand, taking the next step. So when preparing for the panel, she was asking lots of chefs in Aspen and on the panel about when to grow, how to grow. So her question is, as your first restaurant in New York City, why now and why New York? And so you pretty much touched on or answered that. But
yeah, and I think why now? I think I answered that. I think it's the 2 reasons: because of the opportunity and because of the timing in my life right now. I was fortunate enough to be a chef at a young age, which, you know, there's pluses and minuses to that. But the big plus was I got to grow up with an amazing group of people that, you know, I never look at myself as the chef, you know, like in that kitchen, in the first kitchen as Aqua, we were a team, and we were all, you know, everyone worked together. We had a really dynamic group of people that are all great chefs right now. But when, you know, what it really took to come to New York was to, you know, say to myself, you know, one of the hardest things is the discipline of saying, okay, you know, my Michelin star restaurant and everything else is Michael Mina. And, you know, the question would be, why didn't why don't you do that in New York? Why don't you? Not that I would never do another concept in New York, but when this location came available, I really felt like this kind of evolution of bourbon steak and what we're trying to do, what we are doing with bourbon steak, could become very iconic with the Essex House being on Central Park, being something that could become a restaurant that could really become a staple in the city, even though, yes, there are a lot of steakhouses. I view bourbon steak a little bit different myself in what we do here, where, from day one, this whole concept is about, taking great product. And people always had great product when it came to steak. And there's, great cuts of meat and everything else. But everything from the produce to sourcing the absolute best products, and then putting the innovation behind it of all of my years of experience, but then the cooking techniques, but still staying true to what makes you want to come to a steakhouse. So I'll give you examples of a couple dishes. So like instead of cream spinach, right, we do this beautiful cream spinach souffle. So it's this gorgeous souffle. It's nice, light, airy. It's got technique behind it. It's got innovation behind it. And then it's got, like the cream sauce. All of the food at the restaurant is thought through in that manner. It's looked through with that lens.
I had that. I had a wonderful tasting when I was here. And you also have a lot of the tableside presentation. And that's, I feel, a part of it. Because when the souffle, this what's that? It's, it's a dish that you're sort of something you want to talk about beyond eat.
Yeah, and that's kind of the idea behind, and that many years went into pulling this menu together. And, we've had the project for 3 years. It took 3 years to get it built, designed the way we wanted it. And it also gave us 3 years to really work on everything, the design, the carts that we built, everything to bring a little bit of a fresh look at tableside that's a little, less cumbersome and just fun. And it's really showcasing the best of the best. Because like when you go to a steakhouse, you want great shellfish. And we do the traditional shellfish towers out of the kitchen and everything else. But what we do is we take a product that's just absolutely in peak season. Like right now, we're doing Norwegian king crabs that are live. And when you've had king crab that's live and freshly cooked, it's just a totally different product.
Delicious.
And then we display that.
Yeah. Your cart, your seafood cart is very cool because you see sometimes bread carts or dessert carts. You don't see that many high-end seafood carts where you just are like, ooh, delicious. And also on your menu, is your tuna tartare something you've been doing for ever?
20 years, yeah. I've been very blessed that I have, when I look at my database, because I've been around for a long time, I have
good experience.
I have a lot of great New York loyal friends, customers. And so we, a few of the classics are on there. There's 3 or 4. There's the tuna tartare, there's the lobster pot pie, which both fit really well in this concept. There's the caviar parfait. So there's 3 or 4 of the classics on here.
Yeah. And what about your steak? Because it is talk about that.
So that's really the essence of why I got into building the first steakhouse, was because at the time I was at Michael Mina in San Francisco at the St. Francis Hotel. And, that was our, we had 2 Michelin stars, and we were very focused on, and that was that period of time where you could not import Japanese beef. Remember that? I think that there was that small period of time where you could not import Japanese beef. And at that time, I think people called it Kobe. They didn't even call it Wagyu. And so we just kind of obsessed with how to cook meat and get it the most tender we could get it. And we ultimately ended on a process where we would butter poach it at about 120 to 125 degrees, depending on the size of the cut. for anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour and 10 minutes, and herbs and shallots and clarified butter. And it does not saturate the meat at all. It just really slow cooks the meat, tenderizes it, and then we bring it, just under rare, and then grill it on a 900-degree wood-burning grill. And the product, we were just amazed in the flavor, in the tenderness, in the lack of shrinkage. And I was like, we need to, this needs to be a steakhouse. This is how we're going to cook all of our steak. And so now when you go in the kitchen, you'll see 9 of these giant butter baths, and that's how we cook all our steak.
Yeah, well, this space is so beautiful and it's grandeur. How many seats do you have in here?
So it's divided up, and kind of intentionally, we have about 120 seats in the dining room. We have another 65 seats in the bar and lounge, and the bar and lounge is another beautiful place to dine, and that's open at lunchtime. Dining room opens at dinner. And then we have a great back dining room that's can be a private dining room. It can be another dining room. We use it as a speakeasy at night. It has its own bar back there, and people come and use it as a little hidden bar at nighttime. And so it's grand total, we have about 240 seats.
And for people maybe who aren't as familiar with New York City, as I'm looking at you in the window in the background, I'm looking at Central Park.
Yes.
we are right here at the bottom of the park. And as far as location, you're primetime Manhattan.
Yeah. And that, honestly, that really, that sealed the deal.
Yeah,
so
I hear you.
Looking at the location, and we brought a couple little trees into it and to try to create the feel throughout it. But in all honesty, you're just so blessed to be right on the park. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So are you still currently living, where are you living? Are you still in San Francisco?
No, I split my time. We have a residence, and our residence is in Las Vegas. And then I have an apartment in San Francisco, so I go back and forth.
So that's a good segue, because I wanted to talk about Vegas, because I went to Michael Mina at the Bellagio a while ago. Yeah. And then I've also been to Brasserie Bardot at the Aria. Yeah. And that was more recently, but still probably 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah. So I guess with your expansion, because we kind of jumped ahead to Aqua to having 32 concepts and being in New York. Yes. So how did you grow? Yeah. And when did you open in Vegas, and why? Because you were also a pioneer, or, I was in Vegas for the 50 Best, and there are a lot more celebrity type chefs there and things, but you were, I would say, one of the first, if not the first.
No. So I opened Bellagio 25 years ago.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that long ago. That was my
second restaurant, and at that time it was, it was intense because San Francisco was the first and Vegas was not Vegas yet.
Yeah.
And I think what convinced me to go to Las Vegas, I was nervous. I was nervous about, are you going to be able to get your product? Are you going to be able to staff? And at that time, what convinced me to do it, obviously what they were building was very dynamic. And so you could look at it and say, I want to be part of Bellagio for sure. I want to be part of Bellagio. But I went and had dinner, and that's when Jean-Louis Paladin had Napa in the Rio, and had one of the best meals of my life, and could not believe the product he was getting in. And he was a dear friend of mine. And so, we went out afterwards, and he was talking me through all of it, how he gets the product and everything. And I was like, wow, this is a great opportunity. If, and in typical Vegas fashion, you could see what was coming. If they were going to do it at Bellagio, all of a sudden it was going to get copied everywhere. And so I was like, why not get in on, before everybody gets here? And I would say it's had an enormous effect on my ability to, grow this company.
Yeah. As you're saying the years, and I forget how time flies. So in Vegas now, you currently have...
I have 5, soon to be 6 restaurants in Las Vegas. And so Michael Mina Bellagio, which has been there 25 years. Then I have Bardot, as you mentioned, which is, our just a great classic Parisian brasserie.
I went for brunch, I remember,
Yeah,
and it was
brunch is
fabulous. Had really good
fabulous,
energy. Yeah.
I have strip steak there, which was actually our first steakhouse. It was before
Okay.
Bourbon Steak, and that's at the Mandalay Bay. I have International Smoke at MGM, which is actually a concept with Aisha Curry, Stephen Curry's wife. And it's kind of global it's global, wood fire cooking, barbecue, all of that with a lot of global flavors. Because every country has its own kind of, grilling, smoking, whatever you want to call it. And then my most recent restaurant that I just opened that I'm just ecstatic about because it's called Orla and it's everything I grew up on. And so it's kind of my journey. And so I'm Egyptian. I grew up in a Middle Eastern household. And over the last, 6 years, I've been working on a book called My Egypt and just really going back and, the food I grew up on, just going back and spending time with chefs and historians to take me around and show me where it comes from and everything else. And then taking that food and keeping the essence of it, but then taking the techniques and things I've learned and creating food out of it that's a little, my interpretation of it through my career. And what I learned from doing it was there was just an enormous amount of Greek crossover in the food because of Alexander the Great and because of how many years that, that Greece had invaded Egypt and how many, 300 years of influence in the food. And so a lot of the food I grew up on that I thought was 100%, Egyptian was a lot of us Greek. And so it's been a very fun concept to just bring to life with like a lot of my mom's recipes. And
Oh, I love that.
it's called Orla. And then I'm building a new a bourbon steak at the Four Seasons right now in Las Vegas as well.
Oh, yeah. No, Las Vegas, as I said, I was just there, and it's sort of, it's a one-of-a-kind city, for sure.
It is.
So you're still looking to do more concepts, or is there a point where you're like, after 37, call it a day?
Yeah. No. I mean, whether it's concepts or more of the same ones, we're still expanding, and and I've got I have the luxury of having done it for so many years. Having a really amazing team.
Yeah, you must.
And it's great because I'm a big believer that I love what's happened in the United States where, I remember when it was voodoo for a chef to have more than one restaurant, and I hated that. I thought that was ridiculous because to me, I knew that as soon as chefs became the restaurateurs, the food in the country was just going to get better and better because, and you can see it happening. I mean, the last, 15 years, more and more chefs have had multiple restaurants, and look how good the food's getting all over the country. And I think that they go hand in hand of why that's happened. And it's because you're giving all sorts of people that have worked for you opportunities and, and continuing to give them the right roadmaps to be very successful. And that's just going to continue to make the food better in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. Have there been any major surprises in opening in New York, East Coast versus West Coast, or difference in clientele? Or, I mean, you've done a lot of openings, so.
Yeah, I mean, I no major surprises. I mean, I come to New York 6 times a year. So many of my friends are the chefs that are here in New York. And so I don't think there has been any major surprises. I think it's just maybe, if anything, I would just say that I knew I was going to be excited about opening in New York, but I didn't realize how excited I was going to be. I mean, it's like, it's obsessing me right now. I just love it.
I love it. No, I see it from your smile. It's good to be in New York. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
What about accolades and Michelin stars and James Beard Awards and all that stuff? Like, was it something you strived for, something you think about a lot, something you just sort of, I don't know, appreciate having? What's
No,
your...
look, you're doing it for a couple reasons. I mean, at the end of the day, there's multiple reasons. One, any time you're being judged by anybody, it's important. Like, we're in the business of having people love what we do. I mean, that's the goal, is to make great impressions. Now you talk about people that's what they're doing for a living, and they're out critiquing you and judging you, whether it's your peers or whether it's, people that are hired to do that. Of course you want that, but you want it more than anything else. I want it for my staff, because, you ultimately, you want your staff. It's not just you that gets the recognition, and it shouldn't be, because it sure isn't you that's doing everything that's going to get you a Michelin star, right? It's your whole team, and you want that for your team. And so you want to try to push hard to get that for your team, whatever accolade it is. And then obviously it will help in bringing people into the restaurant. And that also helps your staff, especially, your employees that are, especially your tipped employees in the dining room, or even your employees in the kitchen, and you can take better care of them. But your tipped employees in the dining room, if it gets you 2 seatings versus 1 seating, they're doing better financially. So there's many, many reasons that you want to, that, and I don't think you can take anything for granted. I hear people say that they're not worried about that, or they're not worried about this. I don't know if I believe all of them when they say that, but I think people do, even if they're saying that. I think they still are. Maybe some of them are sincere about it, and they really don't care, but I care. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate your answer. And yeah, I asked the question because I think everyone has a little bit of a different take on it. But yeah, what you said resonates with me. I get it.
Yeah.
And I have a book that came out last year that I brought you a copy, actually.
Oh, thank you.
It's called Chef Wise.
Okay.
And it's by Fiden, and it's a book of chef advice.
Oh.
Not like you need any of, I don't know. But my question is, what's your chef advice, like, for aspiring young cooks? Because,
Stay the path. I mean, it's I've seen so many people come and go in a 5-year period. Like, the true mark, I think, of a chef is, how do you be relevant decade after decade? And a lot of it, has to do with your cooking, but you can make mistakes that have nothing to do with the kitchen, that is just like, you go sign a lease and you don't know what your problem with chefs, me included, right?
What's the problem with chefs?
Well, everyone comes to you for all the answers, right?
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, you're a plumber, you're an electrician, like, toilet breaks. Oh, shit, let's go ask chef what to do. Like, I don't know how to fix a toilet.
Right, right.
And so everyone comes to you with every question. And so what ends up happening is you start to, feel like you know more than you know. And there's really crucial decisions, like when you're, signing leases, when you're creating partnerships with people, when you're doing these things. And every chef wants their own restaurant. It's like, and so you can't make those mistakes that could end up really costing you your career, because once you make certain mistakes on the business side, it will drain you of your creativity, of your drive, of everything else. And try really hard, to get yourself the right type of representation when you're dealing with, things that could have a very long-term effect on you.
Yeah, no, well said, and all true, I think. So, okay, do you want to play my speed round before I feel like we're getting close to service?
Yeah,
I'm going to probably have to let you go, but
Okay.
that's why it's a speed round. We're going to go fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so what it is I'm going to name a couple of things, and you got to pick your preference, such as chocolate or vanilla.
Okay.
So I give you choices.
Okay.
Okay, so eat in at home or eat out at a restaurant?
Jesus, you got to give me a tough one right away.
Well, you might find the whole game tough. But there's no rules. There's no rules.
Okay. Yeah, so preference would be eat at home.
Okay.
Love eating out at restaurants because for educational purposes, but what I would enjoy more is just being at home because it's my quiet time.
Got it. Indoor dining or al fresco dining?
Indoor dining.
Wine, beer, cocktail, mocktail, or champagne?
All of the above.
As you should say. Tasting menu or a la carte?
Tasting menu.
Small plates or large plates?
Small plates. Oh, sorry. Take that one back. Large plates. And let me tell you why. I think truly as a chef, it is much harder to create a dish that's going to keep you interested through 30 or 40 bites than through 3 or 4 bites.
Wow, that is, I've been playing this game for a while and I have some standard ones and I think that's the first anyone said, like the reasoning, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about communal table or chef's counter?
Communal table. I like socializing.
Okay. I don't know if you play it all in Vegas, but I'm going to ask blackjack or craps or blackjack. I'm blackjack too.
Yeah.
I like playing. It's fun, even though the minimum on tables scares me.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you travel a lot, window seat or aisle?
Aisle. But in all fairness, it used to be window till I got a little older and had to use the restroom more.
Yeah. Well, in an ideal world, you get them both, right?
Yeah.
A window and an aisle.
Yeah.
Okay, last two are cheese plate or dessert.
Dessert 100% for me.
Yeah, I use some great desserts here.
I'm a sugar fanatic.
Yeah, really great. Okay, last one is Manhattan, Brooklyn, San Francisco, or Las Vegas.
Can't answer that one.
Okay.
Because
you have too many investors that might be listening. I'm just kidding.
No, just so different. San Francisco is, because of my amount of years in San Francisco, I've had to answer it would be San Francisco because such a love for the city and the people and it was, meant so much to me. But I love being in New York. Absolutely love it. And, and there's just, I think that would be like answering who your favorite child is. You love them for different reasons.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I will not press on.
And I haven't spent enough time in Brooklyn to say Brooklyn.
Yeah. We'll see 5 months from now if you have a place in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know. Okay, so and then the last thing is I'll do the final question with you. So I'll ask you to ask a question for my next guest or a guest I'm going to be having on the fall.
Okay.
And it's another chef.
Okay.
And his name is Tyler Aiken.
Okay.
He is the founder of Form Function Hospitality and a chef and partner at Bastia, which is a new cafe by day and Mediterranean restaurant by night that's opening at Hotel Anna and Bell, which is the first boutique hotel in Philadelphia's Fishtown neighborhood.
Oh,
I don't know if you know Philly at all, but it's in Fishtown. And then he's going to have a cocktail bar there called Coletta, and he's the chef partner at a French brasserie called Le Cave Lier at the historic Hotel DuPont in Wilmington, Delaware. So he's doing concepts in hotels, which I know you're familiar with. So you can ask him anything, Michael. Please ask a question for Tyler.
I would say, sounds like, he's doing a number of restaurants. I would just say, how did you find your designers for the restaurants? And how comfortable are you with them?
I like it.
Because design has so much to do once you start expanding like that.
Yeah.
And how involved are you in the design?
That's a great question. I want to ask you the same thing, or at least for New York. Did you work with a different design firm here?
with this here, I worked with Abrico, who I've worked with in the past.
They're wonderful.
But I wanted to work with them because they are wonderful. I felt like they could really do this space. Like, I look at, very closely, and then it took us years, and I'm very, very involved in it because I think it has such a large role to play in the long-term success.
Yeah, well, it's beautiful, and it's wonderful to be here today with you. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for having me for dinner. I can't wait to come back.
Okay, well, you have to.
Yeah, no, I have to. I am your neighbor, as I said, and congratulations on everything you've achieved. I mean, it's quite remarkable and just an honor to have this time to talk with you.
Well,
so thank
you for having me.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
Same here.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap from Bourbon Steak in New York City with Michael Mina. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Michael, for joining me. I can't wait to come back. Thanks for being part of All in the Industry. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. There's a reason when you think of Wisconsin, you think cheese. Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin's history and future. In Wisconsin, the state of cheese, the tradition of cheese-making excellence began 180 years ago, before Wisconsin was recognized as a state. Immigrants traveled to settle in this lush green hills of Wisconsin, bringing their cheese-making traditions with them. These storied skills, combined with the freshest milk available, created a cheese-making culture that is uniquely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1,200 cheesemakers, many of whom are third and fourth generation, continue to pass on old world traditions while adopting modern innovations in cheese-making craftsmanship. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
Welcome back to All in the Industry on Heritage Radio Network. I'm your host and producer, Sherry Bayer, and my guest today is acclaimed chef and restaurateur Michael Mina of Mina Group, who recently debuted his first New York City restaurant, Bourbon Steak, New York, where we did our interview. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Michael. I certainly loved sitting down with him and dining at Bourbon Steak. I had a really fantastic meal. So thank you so much, Michael and team. It was truly special and so glad to have you as my neighbor. I look forward to returning and seeing you again soon. Okay, so for industry news this week, I wanted to talk about Hurricane Helene and its aftermath to help spread some information about ways that we can help. Since it made landfall about a week ago, there have been more than 200 deaths, more than half of which were in North Carolina, where the state faced several feet of fast-moving water, destroying entire communities, and hundreds are still missing. And my heart goes out to the communities in the South that were affected by this hurricane. There are many articles online about the situation, which you can check out. One of them, which is on CNN, is entitled How Helene Devastated Western North Carolina and Left Communities in Ruins. And this is by Ray Sanchez. And I wanted to share with you all a post from Katie Button, who is based in Asheville, North Carolina. And she and her entire hospitality community were greatly affected by Helene. And Katie is a friend, along with her husband, Felix, who is her business partner as well. And they have several concepts in Asheville, including Curate and La Bodega by Curate. And Katie is an award-winning chef. She's a past guest of this show and a part of my Chefwise book, and truly a leader in our industry. And what she posted is real and honest. And so I just want to relay her message. And so I'm going to read part of what she wrote, And I encourage you to go to her Instagram at Chef Katie Button and watch her video and see the information that she provided and follow her story, as I imagine she will be having updates as this situation is serious and it's not going to be a quick fix, but she shared ways that we can help. So here's a bit of what she wrote. The catastrophe and devastation in our area is beyond words, and even that is an understatement. I took a moment yesterday between strongly worded discussions with my insurance company to reflect on where we are and my concern for how this situation will impact our food and beverage community, which makes up roughly 12.2% of Asheville's workforce. If you have the means to donate, I have included links in my bio for the NCRLA NC Hospitality Worker Relief Fund, Southern Smoke Foundation donation page, and the WC Kitchen Hurricane Helene donation link. We have been told it will be weeks until water is restored, which will continue to affect all aspects of everyone's lives. And her post continues on. I encourage you again to go on Instagram, and you can read her entire post at Chef Katie Button and follow her stories and all of the links that she posted in her bio. Some of the organizations' websites that she mentioned and ways to support are recovery.ncrla.org/donate. And that's the NCRLA website, which is the NC Restaurant and Lodging Association, and also Southern Smoke. Their website is southernsmoke.org/donate. And this past weekend, Southern Smoke had their big fundraising event in Houston, and I saw that they raised more than $1.5 million for food and beverage workers nationwide, which is incredible. Congratulations to Chris Shepard and his team. That is really amazing. And you can also go to World Central Kitchen's website, and that's donate.wck.org. And this, of course, is Jose Andres' organization, and I believe they were the first on the ground. It's tremendous what he and his organization does. So those are some of the outlets to support, and I will also post this in my show notes so you can find the information there. Wishing all the best to everyone in the South who's been affected by Hurricane Helene, including Katie, Felix, and their team, and all of their families. Thinking of all of you. And listeners, let's do what we can to help. Thank you. Okay, it's time for my solo dining experience. And this week, I have a really special one. It's at Kiki da Costa. Here's the rundown. The location, Carrer Rascasa 1 in Denia, Alicante, Spain. The concept, a journey to the Levant, expressed through tradition and technique. A cuisine based on the ecosystem surrounding the restaurant that breathes the air of both the gardens and the Mediterranean, integrating the minerals, herbs, and iodine flavors that are found in the region. The chef and owner, Kiki da Costa. So why'd I go? Well, I had heard extraordinary things about Kiki's restaurant, and I didn't get a chance to go when I was in Valencia for the World's 50 Best Restaurants 2023. And since then, I'd connected with Kiki on social media, and I'd seen him in Las Vegas for the World's 50 Best Restaurants 2024. And I was excited to go. So I made it happen. My experience. This summer, I was on a solo trip to Spain. I was in Ibiza, and I figured out that I could take a ferry from Ibiza to Denia, which is about 2 hours, and make it a day trip. So that is what I did. I had an adventure. I woke up early and I drove to the ferry terminal, and I got on a ferry and I took it to Denia, and I was extremely fortunate to have Kiki pick me up at the ferry and bring me to his beautiful restaurant and have a truly exquisite lunch, and got the ferry to get back to Ibiza in time, and it all worked. And according to Kiki, I'm not the first person who has taken the ferry over for lunch to his restaurant from Ibiza, but it was ambitious, I have to say. But I got to go on 2 awesome ferry rides and have this once-in-a-lifetime experience, which I will forever be grateful for. So thank you so much, Kiki. Really, no words. You made my summer and beyond. So, with my experience, when I arrived at the restaurant, which was about a 10-minute ride from the ferry terminal, I was warmly greeted by one of the team members who led me into a room that was in a separate building in the front of the restaurant on its patio. And it was a beautiful first impression. The room was light and bright and had a giant white marble communal table in the center, and it had a lovely candle showcase, and the front wall is all windows, and so natural light permeates the entire space. And looking out the windows, I could see a tree in the patio area that reminded me of the Joshua trees in California. And there was also something about Denia that reminded me a bit of Palm Springs, probably because it was also very hot. But I thought that was kind of cool. So it was a lovely place to begin my meal. And from the moment I arrived, Kiki's team took such extraordinary care of me. They really guided me through my entire experience and made me feel extremely welcome. And I started with Act 1. The menu has 4 acts, like a play, and different courses with each act. And there were several bites in this room. And then I was brought into the main building, and I sat at a table in the front room where I had a view of the entire space, and it felt as if I was in Kiki's home. It had a really nice vibe, and my servers led me through the menu. There were many tableside presentations, and as I've said on this show before, I truly believe that tasting menus are wonderful for solo diners because it is like theater, and there is so much happening, and you don't want to miss it. So what did I get? So his menu is Por Amor al Arte, which is for the love of art. And he explains this as the menu where he expresses his understanding of today's kitchen, created for the season using the most iconic produce as well as produce that is unfamiliar, bringing knowledge, innovation, culinary vision, and passion for creativity. So the first act included dishes like almond cake and pate and croûte. With the second act, there was a red tuna belly cured in saline atmosphere. The third act had grilled bread and leeks with sea cucumber and lavender rice. The fourth act, desserts, and that included Palooka's Carillon, which is a dessert jewelry box. And there was a dish called Cortex of Carib, Morels, and Mediterranean pine cones. And I will post the menu and photos at All Industry Instagram so you can see what I'm talking about and eat with your eyes. So my take It was a fantastic tasting menu. It was so unique. It was not like anything I've had before. The presentations, the flavor combos, the ingredients, it was all really fantastic. I was a little crunched with time because I had to catch a ferry, but the team moved me through the meal at a really nice pace, and they knew that I was on a little bit of a tighter schedule, and it flowed. And again, I'm just so grateful. So the ambiance, as I've mentioned a little bit about, the first patio room in the front with the marble table and gold candlestick display, and it was very elegant. And the main dining room felt as if you're in someone's beautiful home. The building was designed by Gigi Architects in collaboration with the Chef's Food Design Lab, and the tables are pretty spaced apart. I had a very large table for one. So I'd say it's perfect for dining solo or with a date or with friends. Interesting tidbit, Kiki DaCosta has 3 Michelin stars and is currently number 14 on the world's 50 best restaurants list. It's also number 8 on OAD, which stands for Opinionated About Dining. Personal fun fact. So when I was in Valencia for the world's 50 best restaurants in 2023, I went to Kiki's other restaurants. I went to El Poble, which has 2 Michelin stars, and I had a fantastic solo dining experience there. And Eric Repair, chef from Le Bernardin in New York City, who was in town for the awards, and he's a part of my Chef Wise book, was there dining solo as well. So that was cool. And when Kiki DaCosta restaurant opened in 1981, it was actually called El Poble, and Kiki changed the name to his namesake in 2009, and then in 2012 opened El Poble in Valencia. And also in Valencia, he has Vuelva Carolina, which I went to for lunch, also solo, and had a great meal there. And then I had dinner with my friend John Sconzo at his restaurant Lisa Negra, and that was a wonderful experience. And so now all I'm missing is to go to London and check out Kiki's restaurant there, which is called Arroz QD. So stay tuned for that. We'll see when that happens. So the cost of my meal would have been €295. I was a guest of the chef, which I'm so grateful for. So thank you, Kiki. Would I go back? For sure. Their website is kikidacosta.es. That's QUIQUEDACOSTA.es. And on Instagram, you can follow him at QIQE.Costa. And I hope you can get to experience his wonderful restaurant in Denia as well. Thank you again so much to Kiki and his team. Truly magical. I will cherish my memory forever of my solo adventure in Spain. And that's the show. Thank you so much to chef and restaurateur Michael Mina of Mina Group for joining me on this epic 400th episode. I'm so excited to have Bourbon Steak New York now in New York City and look forward to returning. Congratulations on all you've accomplished. And for anyone who wants to find out more about Michael and all of his restaurants, you can go to michaelmina.net and follow him on social media at Chef Michael Mina, and his restaurant group is at The Mina Group, and that's MINA. You can follow me at Sherry Bayer at Bayer PR and at All Industry. My Facebook page is All in the Industry. My websites are BayerPublicRelations.com, SherryBayer.com, and AllInTheIndustry.com. All of our shows are archived at heritageradionetwork.org. We are also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And also you can check out my YouTube channel, which I changed the name from Sherry Bayer to All in the Industry. And there you can find our video content. So please check it out. And also check out my book, Chefwise, Life Lessons from Leading Chefs Around the World by Fiden. It's available wherever books are sold. Many thanks to my engineer today, Armin. And again, to Michael and his team, and to Emily, Hannah, Georgia, and everyone at Mona Creative. I'm your host and producer, Sherry Bayer. I'll be back soon with a new show. I hope you'll tune in then. Thank you for celebrating our 400th episode with us. And thank you, as always, for being part of All in the Industry. Bye. All in the Industry is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.